Hello everyone, welcome to Zaref Game Dev. In this video, I am going to create the ColorJump game in Unity. So as you have seen the thumbnail, it's going to be a normal ball type game and there are going to be different color blocks at the left and the right side. And as we hit the tap or just tap it, the ball's going to jump and it will move towards any of the sides. And it will score a point if it collides with the same colored block, and the game ends if it collides with a different colored block. And after each turn, the block's color will change. So this game I'm going to create it in Unity. So let's start creating the game. As you can see, I opened up the basic Unity project and created a new scene, renamed it as gameplay. And I've created a couple of folders. The first one's for the material, the second one's for the prefab, and next scenes in which I've deleted the sample scene and added the gameplay scene. And the last one's for the scripts in which I've added the game manager script. So for now, let's create the button, which is going to be a text mesh pro button, and we'll just call it start. And the start button is going to be a longer one, so let's have it black and let's increase its size to 1000 by 1000. And similarly, let's set up the canvas, so it's going to be screen space camera with the main camera and scale with screen size, so 1080 by 1920, and we'll match width and height to 0.5. And for the start, it's just going to say tap to play, and let's make it bold and capitalize it. And for the size, let's have it at 96. So as you can see, it's going to look like this, and let's make it black, and let's set up the color to be a little bit like this. So when we tap, the game should start. So this font is almost like you could no, it's just ugly, so I'll replace it with the font I downloaded. So to create the font for this Text Mesh Pro, we'll need to create a font asset like this one. So we'll create that font asset. So we'll go inside Window, Text Mesh Pro, Font Asset Creator, and we'll add the source file to it, and it will automatically create our asset. So and after we do that, it will generate our font, and let's hit save. And if we save it inside our materials, we should be able to save our font. So if we hit save, you should be able to see this font, and we'll need to add a fallback value to it. So for the fallback, let's add our default font as the fallback. And let's if we change the now the font to this, it's going to look like this. And let's make it 128, and spacing character, let's have a little bit more spacing, so 5. And word spacing is all right, and let's make the background transparent. So as you can see, it's going to say tap to play. And after having this, we'll create one more text. So let's just call this text play, and we'll create one more text, and this text is going to be for the title, and its title is going to be color jump. And let's increase this width to 1000 and height to 250, and currently it's positioned as 0. and let's make it black, and let's position it towards the center, and we'll change its font to what we have created now. And afterwards, let's increase size to 256 or 160. And if we position a little bit towards the top, 500, you should be able to see how it's going to look. And let's make it bold, and let's have this tab to play 96. And we'll need one more for the high scores, so let's duplicate this title and let's call it high score, and we'll just position it at negative 500, change the size to 96. And for the color jump, let's increase its character spacing, so around 10, 8. And let's set up the high score. So for the high score, let's set it to 64, 96, and it's just going to say best and 0. For now it's 0, and that's how our starting screen is going to look. And as you can see, there's an error message popping up here, so we'll just uh, do in the text mesh pro settings, we'll disable the warnings, so it should be inside disable warnings, text mesh pro you cannot see it here because I am recording the window and it does not record any other windows that are popping up. So I'll just demonstrate it, and if you have any doubt, you can comment it below. I'll tell you where to go. So now we have our basic scene setup. Let's add the score. So for the canvas, we'll add a UI text mesh pro, and similarly, it's going to be for the score. Position from the top. Let's increase its width to 500, or maybe 800, and height to 250. And if we position it negative 150, and let's just increase its size. So, and we also need to change its font, and let's set its size to 256, and we'll need to increase the character spacing, so let's set up the character spacing to 10, and there is not going to be anything else, and let's make it bold, characterized, and that's how it's going to look for now. And for the start, it's currently like almost ugly looking, so let's position it 400, and this one will position it at negative 400, so it looks almost good. And we'll need to set up its color. So for the color, what color are we going to use? So let's have a dark blackish color, so let's set it to 3, 4, and 94. Was it blue? Or maybe 194. uh Let me 011627. Okay, so the color code was 0116 and 27. So now it looks almost a little bit better. And that's it for our start panel. And let's hide our start panel. So after having our start panel, let's create an empty, and we'll call it end panel. And inside this end panel, we are going to have Let's just duplicate it and we'll parent it to the end panel. And instead of high score 1, we'll call it high score end. And it's positioned toward the center, so it won't matter much. Now let's add the two buttons. So for the buttons, let's create a UI and text mesh pro button. This one's for the restart, and let's increase its size to 800 by 200, 175, and let's change its color to this black one. Hmm. We'll change its color afterwards. And for the text, let's add 96 white, and it's just going to say play again. Let's make it bold, and we'll need to change its font and increase the character weighting to 5. So we have the restart text. Let's duplicate it again, and this one's going to be for the quit, and let's position the restart a little bit higher, so 200, and the quit, let's position it -75 or maybe -100, so it looks a little bit towards the center. And similarly for the quit, we'll call the quit function, and this should have our end screen setup. So we are able to see the score, and we have our all three title screens set up. Now let's add our players. So the player, it's just going to be a 2D sprite. So let's add a 2D object, and let's position it towards the center, and let's increase the size. So maybe it's around 3 3, and let's change its color to whatever we are seeing. And as you can see, it's pretty much large. We'll increase the canvas size to 60 and change the circle size to 5 by 5. Main camera, okay, 30, and we'll change the circle size to 3 cross 3. Maybe, yep, it'll be better. And let's position, where should we position it? For the Y, let's position it at 5, and let's have our start panel show up. So that's where our circle is going to be. And we'll add, hmm, where is our circle? Let's rename our circle as a player. We have our scale setup. Now, after having our scale, the circle will need a material. So let's create our materials. So it's going to be a 2D physics material, and let's just call it bouncy, and it's going to have bounciness of 0.9. And after setting up the material, let's add it. So bouncy, and let's add similarly rigid body 2D, and here we'll change a couple of things. So for the gravity scale, let's set it to 20, and let's create a script for our player. So it's just going to be player script, and we'll also create one more script for the block. And let's add our player script to the player. Mm. So it's looking almost pretty much not looking bad, I would say. So after this, let's create our blocks. So similarly, the blocks are going to be a 2D squares, and let's call it block. Let's have it scale in the X and Y to 4, and let's set up the color to black. And similarly, if we position it at 15, you can see it's going to move there. And if we change the Y scale to 60, it's going to fill up the whole screen. So let's have it for now, and we'll position it towards the center. And it will also require a box collider 2D with the material of bouncy, and similarly it will require the block script. And we'll save this block as a prefab, so it's just going to be the only prefab we are going to use. And let's edit this block. So there is nothing much going on here, but we'll just add a tag to the block, which is going to be a tag of block, and we'll add it to this block. And let's go inside the scene and let's position this block. So to position this block, we'll not directly position it, but we'll parent it. So let's create an empty, which is the left, and let's reset its transform, and for the X it's going to be at -15. And let's duplicate this left and let's position it right, and similarly it's going to be at +15. And now if we parent this block one to here and one to here, and let's increase its scale, so both blocks are going to have a scale of 60, so that's how it should look now. And we'll need to set up the color jump a little bit lower. So for the title, let's decrease its spacing to 5, and let's also decrease its size, so 128. And maybe the play needs to be, it's already 96, so 128 and add 16, 144. 128 plus 10, 146. So 146 pretty much looking good. And now, as you can see, our scene is almost set up. And now we'll need to create the two death locations. So we'll just create it now. So let's create an empty and let's call it death. And let's reset its transform, and we'll give it a tag of respawn, and let's add a box collider 2D component to it, and it's going to have a scale of 34, the Y scale of 4, and let's position it towards the upper area, so it should look good to us. And if we duplicate it again and let's position it -31, we should have our two death area blocks. And now the last thing we need to create is the game manager, and let's reset its transform, and let's attach the game manager script. So how the game manager is going to be used here, the one's going to be for initializing the start panel and to create all the functionalities for the start button, the restart button, the quit button, and to update the player score, in which will have the score added, and to finalize the game end conditions. So everything's almost going to be inside the game manager. That's going to have nothing more. Left and right, we have just added temporary blocks to it, but we'll add these blocks from the game manager. So let's start creating the player. We'll start editing the scripts. So for the scripts, let's go inside Visual Studio, and I'll just open the game manager script. For the game manager script, let's create a public enum, and let's call it block color. And here we are going to have a couple of colors, so I'll just copy paste it Mm, 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 mm. Which are the colors I'm going to use? So you should be able to see. So pink, yellow, orange, violet, navy, and green. These are the color I'm going to use, and afterwards we'll need this color inside our block script because we are just going to match it. It's not going to have anything else. So let's create a public block color, my color, and we'll initialize it inside the game manager. And similarly, let's have the player script. So for the player, we'll need a rigid body and we'll change its velocity. So let's have R2D and let's call it RB, and let's just have it private, and afterwards we'll have a public float and the start velocity, how much velocity you want to increase, and the jump force. And maybe we could add one more for the horizontal velocity, but we won't need it now. Public block color, and we'll just call it player color. And afterwards, let's have our start. Inside the start, we'll just get RB is equals to get component, and we'll get the rigid body 2D component, and let's set RB dot simulated as equals to false. And let's create a public void game start function, and here we'll just say RB dot simulated is going to be true, and we'll change its velocity. So RB dot velocity is going to be v2 dot up plus v2 dot right, and we'll multiply it by the start velocity. So up and the right, so it will go 45 degrees, and we'll multiply it by the start velocity. And inside the game manager, let's delete everything for now, and let's create a public static game manager instance, and let's initialize in the awake method. So if instance is equals to null, then instance is equals to this, else we'll just destroy the game object, and it should have our instance setup. And inside the player, let's create update function, and input dot get mouse button down of 0. Then similarly we'll set up the velocity. So and here vector2 dot up into jump force, and instead of the right, we'll check if rb dot velocity dot x is greater than 0, then we'll go towards the right, else we'll go towards the left, and it should change. And let's create a function. So inside the awake, let's set the, we'll need to create a variable. So let's create a serialized field for the game object, and let's have it private. And the first game object we'll need is the start button, the end panel, And next we'll need the player, the left and the right, and the block prefab. We are not going to use now, but we'll use it later once. And let's have a serialized field, and we'll need to use the text. So using TM Pro, and similarly, it's going to be a TMP text, and the first text is going to be the score text, the high score text, and the high score and text. And afterwards we'll have a private integer for the score and the high score. And what we'll need, private constant float, and it's going to be max size, which is the 60f. Then we'll need private int current level, and after the block color, current color. And similarly it's going to be private. And afterwards let's add our two dictionaries. So I'm just adding it now. You'll see where I'm going to use afterwards. So the next we have the two dictionaries. So level 2 block, so depending on the current level we'll get everything else. So the first thing we are going to need, so start button dot set active to false and end panel dot set active to false. And we need to show the start button. And afterwards, what we'll need to do, time dot time is going to be 1f, then score is going to be 0, and high score is going to be 0. If player prefs dot has key, if it has the high score key, then we'll go player prefs dot set int get int, sorry, and we'll get the high score. So we have our score and the high score. Now we need to update the text. So score text or text is going to be score dot toString, and similarly high score text dot text is going to be high score dot toString, and we'll need to attach best, and current level is going to be 1, and we'll spawn the blocks. And afterwards what we'll do, spawn blocks, then current color, and the current color is going to be random dot range from 0 till 8, and we'll cast it to a block color. And We'll set player dot get component sprite renderer, and dot colors going to be, we'll need to create the colors. So similarly, serialized field private list of color 32. Colors, and for the current color, cast it to an integer. And similarly, player dot get component player dot player color is going to be the current color. So we have set up our player, and next, similarly, it's going to be one more function which will set the colors for our scripts. So we'll call the set colors here. So we have our spawn block, set color, reshuffle. Now let's create the update score function. So it's going to be public void update score, and inside the update score, let's just do score plus plus, and what we'll do, score text dot text is going to be score dot toString, and we'll invoke set blocks. So this function is going to be used when we'll need to add additional blocks. So we are going to invoke, and we'll invoke the set blocks function after 0.05 seconds. So inside the set blocks function, the first thing we are going to get is current color is equals true. We'll just copy this whole code here, and afterwards we'll set the colors. But before that, we'll do a reshuffle function. So reshuffle is going to just delete the current blocks and add new blocks to it. Mm, it will call the spawn blocks function. So we'll do the reshuffle later. This is our set blocks, and now let's add our game start, the game quit. So this one's going to be public void game start, and for the game start, we'll just set the start button dot set active is going to be false, and player dot get component player, and game start, and we'll call the game start function. And similarly, let's add our public void and game over, and for the game over, the first thing will time scale is going to be 0f, and we'll show the end panel, and we'll need to change the score, and we'll need to update the player prefs. And we need to show the high score and text. So high score and text dot text is going to be best plus high score dot toString, and that should be it for the game over. Now the last two functions are remaining, which is the game quit. I should create directories out of it. Not directories, just how people use their code structures to reuse that code. But these are just similar small codes, so I can always application.quit instead of finding. Yep. Uh, Everything. Don't know. I'll just use it later. I don't know how to do it. But I'll do it afterwards because the game quit and the game restart and every these functions I'm using it more often. So later it's good to have some, like if I'm using an inventory or removing the ads. So just using the code would be better. And hmm, so just using the code would be better, and I won't be able. Uh, I won't. What do you call it as? I won't retype the code again and again. So the next one's going to be for the game restart. But every project may be different, so it's just good to have a copy or a reference. And here for the game restart, so let's do unity engine dot scene management dot scene manager dot load scene, and we'll load the zero scene. So we have a player block and a game manager setup. Now let's see if it is working. So we'll need to attach all the game objects to all the correct scripts. So block as the block script assigned but never used, we don't need to know. And block doesn't need to have anything. The players velocities need to going to be changed, so the jump force is going to be 2.5. And similarly we'll need to attach everything to the game manager. The first one is the start button, next we have our end panel and the player, then we have left and the right, and the block prefab, and the three texts. The first was the score text, the second one's the high score text, and the last one's the high score end text. And for the colors, we are going to add 8 colors to it. And let's add this colors first. Let's add 0 and let's add 1. So now if we do 8, it should be all not transparent. So the first color we have is in our block colors. So in the block colors, I have set the color names, and depending on that number, I'll use the colors here. So the first one is the pink. So it's going to be 2550111. So this one's the pink. And next up, mm, we have 255187. Orange. And okay, this one's the yellow. And 2518 6 and 7. This one's for the orange. And This one's the purplish. 58134255. Maybe you won't be able to see the numbers, but if you follow my tutorials, I add a GitHub repo, so you can get the colors from there. So the next one, 2722763. Is it red? 2722763. The fifth element should be red. Let me check it. So it should be inside the game manager at the start. And yes, it's red. 349441191118. And last one is 41191118. I don't know which color it is. Maybe it was with the greenish one. 41191118. Yep, it is a greenish one. And now if I hit play, we have a block setup. So let's add the functionalities for the start. So for the start, let's attach the game manager, and it's going to call the game start. And similarly for the end panel, it's going to call the game restart, and the quit panel or the quit button, it's going to call the game quit function. And we have our two death here and there, so our ball should be able to move. So as you can see, it's able to move, and it's almost moving as we want it to. And there's a little bit of jitter motion because the physics calculation is not done correctly, so I'll decrease the minimum time step. So for the physics, it uses the fixed delta time. So for the preferences, not the preferences, for the editor and for the project settings inside the time, we'll set the fixed time steps to 0.005, so the calculations are done correctly. Or you can also set it as 001, but 005 is almost pretty much good. So the physics calculation were done, the time step was higher, so as you can see, the so now it looks almost good, and we don't have anything for the update score or the game end. So let's add, before that, let's see if we have anything remaining. So there's nothing remaining to do here. Everything's going to be inside the scripting. So we have almost everything set up. So let's go inside scripting again. And my voice is little bit awkward because just never mind. So where were we? So the first thing we'll need to do is spawn the blocks. No, update the score. So to update the score, we'll need to go inside the player, and we'll need to get the collision on collision enter 2D. And if let's check if collision dot compare tag game object dot compare tag, and we'll compare the tag with the respawn. Then we'll call the game manager dot instance dot game over, and similarly let's just return, and let's copy this, and we'll go for the block, and here we'll check if my player color is equals to collision dot game object dot get component block dot my color. If both colors are not same, then we'll call the game manager dot instance dot game over, and similarly we'll do the return else game manager dot instance dot what we need to do, update score. So it should update the score, and we have our block. We need to set up the block. We have restart and the game over. Game over also correctly set up. Set blocks. So after updating the score, we'll set the blocks. So let's set the initial condition first. So let's start creating the spawn blocks and set colors. So spawn blocks going to be pretty much easier because we don't need to do anything. Not need to do anything, but we just need to spawn the blocks, and let's do level to block, and we'll pass the current level. So the number of blocks we are going to get is from the dictionary, and let's do and number of blocks. So we'll do it for the number of blocks, and let's call a game object temporary block. It's going to instantiate, and we are going to instantiate the block prefab, and afterwards stem.transform.parent is going to be left.transform, and let's set the temporary scale is equals to temp scale. And now let's temp block, not temp block, temporary scale dot y is going to be max size divided by the number of blocks, and let's update the temp block dot transform dot scale is going to be the temporary scale. And after updating the scale, let's create a v3 temporary position of 0, and afterwards let's create the temporary position dot y is going to be temporary scale dot y into number of blocks divided by 2 minus I, and minus if number of blocks percent 2 is equals to 0, then we'll subtract the temporary scale dot y divided by 2. So it should spawn our blocks correctly, and we need to set the temp block dot transform dot local position is going to be the temporary position, and similarly we'll do temp block is equals to instantiate block prefab, and afterwards temp block dot transform dot parent is going to be right dot transform temp block transform dot scale is going to be temp scale, and temp dot temporary position. So it's going to spawn the blocks depending on the current level. And now we need to set up the colors. So for the colors, it's going to be similar like this, but we'll need to create some more less and instantiate it. So to spawn the blocks, let's just delete the two blocks we have in our scene. And now, depending on the current level, we should have our block spawn. So maybe we should be able to see if we go inside Unity, and for one it should have two blocks spawn. And let's increase our levels. So we are going to see if where we did the current level, let's increase to 3, and let's see if we have 3 blocks spawn. And the color are just going to be white, and as you can see there are 3 blocks spawned, and similarly its color is different. And now it's calling the game over function. So let's go inside Visual Studio, and now we need to set up the colors. So for setting up the colors, so let's create a list of game object, and let's just call it temporary list. And it's going to be a new list of game objects, and afterwards we'll need a list of block colors. And I'll just copy it. So these are our block colors. We are going to create our color list from this temporary color list. Now we'll need to create the list of block color, which is the current color list, and it's going to be a new list of block color, and we'll add a current color to it. And afterwards we'll remove it from the temp color list, and inside the temporary list we'll add the left dot transform dot get child 0 dot game object. So we added our first object, and now let's do for int I is equals to 1, I less than left dot transform dot child count, and let's create a game object temp, and it's going to be the temporary list, not temporary list. We are going to add left dot transform dot get child of I dot game object. And after that, block color temp color, it's going to be from the temp color list, and for the value we'll pass the random dot range from 0 till temp color list dot count, and we'll add it to the current color list, and we'll remove it from the temp color list. So after doing that, current color list dot count, let's create temp, and it's going to be from the temporary list, and random dot range from 0 to temporary list dot count. And after doing that, let's set the temp.get component, and let's get the block component. And for the block, my color, it's going to be the current color list of I. And temp.get components, right renderer dot colors going to be colors of current color list of I. And we need to remove it from the temporary list. So it should reset our temporary list. Now our color list is already set up, and we need to apply the same colors to the right object also. So we'll copy this line of code here, and we'll copy this function here, and we don't need to set up the blocks again, we have already done that. And we'll copy this code here. But instead of left.transform.getChild, we'll do right.transform.getChild. So it should set up the colors. So we have our spawn blocks, and the set colors also set up. And now maybe it should work. So if we set the current level to 1, where is the current level? So let's set it to 2 so we can see it. And we'll go inside Unity, and let's see if we are able to see. There's a problem, index was out of range. So game manager 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. Okay, so random dot range from 0 till 8. Current color. Hmm. There should be problem inside, I don't know where. So let's go inside Visual Studio and we'll see where the error is. So the colors are set up, but similarly index was out of range error. And okay, I got it. So here what we did is we started from 1, but now we need to start from 0, and now it should work. So let's go inside Unity and let's hit play. So we should have two colors, and if we hit play, the colors are changing and the time scale is not work. So there is a problem with the game manager. So end panel dot set active may be false. We need to set it to true. So end panel was false and we need to set it to true. So let's play again. And as you can see, we are changing the color. The score is also getting updated. And if at the bottom the game ends, quit, we are able to quit the game. And now let's hit play again. So we are able to play again. If we play again, we are able to play again. The color is also getting spawned correctly, but there is one more thing left to do. So odd and layer set to 1. It needs to be higher. We are spawning our blocks, but we need to increase the number of blocks. So that's the last thing we are. It's the last thing that's left to do. So it's going to be inside the set blocks. And inside the set blocks, what we are going to do is we'll check if level to score dot try get value, and the value we are going to pass is the current level plus 1, and we'll out it to an integer, and let's just call it temp temp what do we need to call it as temporary score. And if it passes, then the first thing we'll do is if score is greater than temporary score, then we'll call the reshuffle function and we'll need to create it. So it's going to be void reshuffle reshuffle. So it's going to call the reshuffle function, and in the reshuffle function what we are going to do is we'll delete all the children of the left and the right prefab, and then we'll spawn the blocks. And we need to increase the current levels, so it spawn the blocks depending on the current levels. So let's do current level plus plus. That's the first thing we are going to do. And afterwards, let's create where were we list of game object, and let's just call it temporary list, and it's going to be a new list of game objects. And for int I is equals to 0, I less than left dot transform dot child count, we'll add templates dot add, and left dot transform dot get child of I dot game object. And similarly we'll do one more for loop, and here we'll pass the templates dot count, and we'll do destroy immediate, and let's destroy the list of I. And let's copy this, and instead of having it here, and left dot transform dot child count, right dot transform dot child count. Right, so it should spawn and create new blocks, and we'll spawn the blocks. And after this function is executed, the color should be set up. So that's it. And let's go into Unity if we want to see how it's going to look. So for that, these are the number of blocks: 1 at 1, 2 at 2, and let's put 3 at 5 so we are able to see it, and 4 at 6. So the game's almost pretty much finished. So let's see if we can see everything working correctly. So the current level will need to decrease it to 1. So we should be able to see how it's going to get increased. We'll increase the score count, or if you want to create the score count, so now it's 2. It changed to 3, 4, 5, and let's see if we can score more than 6. 2, now it changed to 3, now 4, now 5, 6, 7. Okay. It's almost pretty much difficult, but as you can see, that's how the game's going to look. 6. It's too difficult. So that's why I was going to let's do it again. And as you can see, the game is working pretty much fine. And there is also for the fourth, so it's also changing correctly. And we can quit the game. We can also play the game. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So that was it for this video. If you like the video, do like and subscribe the channel. And if you want any more suggestions for this video, do comment it below in the video. Thank you. And if you guys are watching till the end, thank you guys for watching the whole video, and see you guys in the next video. And my voice is pretty much bad because I had a cold for almost a week. Not corona, just pretty much cold because I had the fan almost at high speed. So again, thank you for watching and see you guys in the next video.